You're unmuted. You're live.
Okay, we call the meeting back to order. And we're on 6.2, quarterly report, financial information services.
All right, good morning, council. What I have for you today is an information report on progress and operations of the finance department in the first quarter of this fiscal year. So that's April through June. A separate report will be provided with information services details. So some Q1 achievement highlights. The report to the audit committee was completed. So we received an unqualified audit opinion provided from Grant Thornton. This was presented to the audit committee and approved on July 21st and approved by council on July 28th. As always, we're posting the council and CAO quarterly remuneration and expense reports on the website as required. The interim tax bills were issued back in April. The 2022, sorry, there's a typo there. I should say the 2022-23 operating and capital budgets, including tax rates, were approved by council on April 14th. Bylaw number 72, the private street improvement and maintenance bylaw, was amended with various changes, including a reduction in the admin fee from 10% to 5%. Detailed review of bylaw 74 tax exemptions for organizations was presented to council on June 9th, and direction was received to repeal that bylaw and replace with a new policy to reflect the changes there. Spring 2022 debentures were submitted to the province and funds were received. This was for the purchase of a couple of landfill pieces of equipment last year, the dozer and the excavator. We submitted the annual expenditure report to the province as required. We finished the preliminary scoping activities for the implementation of the new asset retirement obligation accounting standards. And here are some following metrics for the first quarter. So between April and June 2022, there were 0 new water supply loans. So there are 16 total active loans ongoing right now. That's for a total outstanding balance of $110,500 across those 16.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, the interim tax bills were issued on April 26th. Again, a typo that says 2021. That's not accurate. There were 13,782 bills. Of those bills, as at August 26th, there was an outstanding amount of $1.2 million and change. So that means that in the 4-month period between April 26th and August 26th, that 88% of all tax revenues from that interim bill were received. On non-tax invoices processed, there were 1,230 during that quarter. That's an increase of 10% from the previous year, same quarter.
Non-tax invoice.
So that would be AP processing if we get an invoice from a vendor or whatever. Just this is a new metric that I decided to include because it does give a rough approximation of the volume of work being processed through our office.
Okay.
Some of the priorities we have for the next quarter, which is nearly complete now. So amending policy P25, the low income tax exemption. Yeah, you received a detailed recommendation and we approved the first notice last week. In the following council meeting, you'll see the slight revision to that as directed. There were those capital and operating budget revisions. Again, that's something you saw and approved last week. There are investment activities ongoing, including some work just this week actually to do better with our existing investments that were locked in at very low rates. We reached the point where our operating account provides a better rate of return than some of the existing investments we had. So we fixed that. There will be a more detailed review of that stuff as we go through. It's kind of ongoing right now, but that's something I wanted to mention that happened recently.
Yeah.
That wasn't in Q1, but I figured you'd be interested to hear that. We're going to continue the scoping work, so do the detailed scoping work for the accounting standard change. That documentation has to be provided to our auditors through the next few weeks so that they can get a head start on some of the work they need to do to prepare for our year end under this new accounting standard. We have provincial submissions coming up due the end of September. So that would be the capital investment plan, the financial information return, and the 2 statement of estimate files that they expect from us. There'll also be a non-consolidated financial statement provided to them at that same deadline. We're continuing to work on the procurement process updates. The step that we're into next would be the PO module implementation. We're working on the next steps to roll that out across the organization right now. The top of the next page has a table showing just the excerpts from your strategic priorities document that relate to finance department. So the procurement strategy, mentioned the PO module, and then the P cards and procurement policy revisions. The investment policy implementation that I just mentioned a little bit about as well. The tax exemption bylaw review. Again, these are sort of high-level summaries of things I've already mentioned. The tax sale options report is a low priority, is still on there. That's something we're planning to get to probably in Q3 of this fiscal year, as well as the streetlights area rate practices and procedures for that. So you can expect to see more information of that before the end of this fiscal year. Q1 capital budget update. Spending between April 1st and June 30th was $123,238, which is lower than it was for the same period of the previous year at $349,000 and change, but roughly in line with the same period for the 2 years before that at $133,000 and $147,000 respectively. Q1 spending in capital tends to be quite low due to the timing of projects and seasonality of a lot of the spending. In particular, the timing of some major projects, the active transportation series of projects, the ICIP stuff, the landfill cell construction that is ongoing now but hasn't been spent really a whole lot towards yet, and the purchase of the compactor that's upcoming. Those are kind of the big pieces.
Yeah.
More detailed updates of capital project progress will come from the relevant departments as they work through those projects. Our Q1 financial forecast. Now, of course, at Q1, our projections tend to be the least specific of any quarter. As we get further in the year, we'll get more specific projections for you. The current projection as at a month end of June shows a surplus forecasted for the year of just over $21,000 in the operating budget. Sorry, the operating fund.
Yeah.
And the next couple pages have the summary by the first one here is by revenues by program, and then the next one is expenditures by program, with your prior year comparatives, current year numbers, budget, and projected variances. Nothing too significant. I'll discuss a couple specific items. I'm not going to go through anything specifically on this page, but they're there for your review. One note you'll see on the expenditure page a little bit consistently is about wage allocations, and that's just to do, it's not an overall variance, it's to do with making sure we're allocating portions of employees who work on multiple programs the right way. There are some changes that'll be in there, so there's some program variances that aren't actually variances to the total budget. And then the next table on the following page shows some reserve allocation reconciliations. So the surplus of the $21,599 is mostly due to smaller variances within all the programs. The largest single variance projected at the moment is due to the deed transfer tax, where we're still experiencing historic highs in that revenue stream.
Crazy.
The 22-23 budget for deed transfer tax is $1.79 million. That's 24% lower than the actuals we received in the prior year. And the Q1 actuals of this year are 9% higher than the actuals received last year. So we're budgeting lower, but we're tracking higher. I've used a very conservative estimate of 10% above budget for the Q1 because they are very volatile real estate transactions, difficult to predict. And so I don't want to get too rosy on those.
So when you say we're 9% higher than what we measured last year?
Actuals, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have expected.
Well, that looks good
I
for
was not
the
expecting that.
for the infrastructure fund.
So where are we in? I can't find that number in here.
Oh, I'm on the bottom section here, the narrative in the last page there.
This page?
Yep, the top paragraph below the green section. Yeah, so projecting a conservative estimate of 10% above budget, with also projecting 50% of that to be contributed to the development.
Infrastructure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the operating fund surplus also includes expenditures for transfers to reserves and revenues for transfers from reserves. The net transfers to reserves for this fiscal year are projected to be $2,562,251, which is just shy of $65,000 higher than the budgeted number of $2.497 million.
Yeah.
This is primarily due to the increase in the deed transfer. When considering the projected increase in reserve funds, the municipality is forecasted to have a $2,583,850 surplus for the current fiscal year. So that's a combination of surplus plus growth in reserve funds.
When you do the wind turbine net, that includes South Canoe and around?
Yes, that includes the net costs and revenues of running our wind turbine, as well as the taxes received from.
South Canoe.
Absolutely. And that's the extent of my report. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to receive them now.
But the wind turbine at our, that we own is broken down at some point, isn't it?
You can look at in the program pages, the colorful ones, you can see the wind turbine program.
Yeah.
It's listed near the bottom, so you can see the revenues. We're currently not projecting any variance with that. They're
That's the one we own?
Yeah.
That's the one we
Okay.
own, yeah. And then you can see the expenditures relating to that on the following page. And again, where it says wind turbine on those two pages, that is specifically the turbine that we own.
Okay.
Just as a matter of curiosity, Alan, you probably know, how often do we get paid for our wind turbine, or from Nova Scotia Power, or whoever gives it
Oh, I
back?
don't know what the,
We get paid monthly.
Monthly,
Yes.
okay, wow, that's interesting.
Just to show me what the transfer tax number is on this sheet.
The deed
I
transfer
don't
tax,
see it on this sheet.
so it's in the narrative description there. It's not its own program.
Okay, so it's not showing.
It would be contained within, on the revenue page, the very top line, property taxes and grants in lieu. That projected $168,000 variance favorable. That is almost entirely due to that deed transfer tax estimate.
And this 1% deed transfer tax, what is that?
So the variance is 1%. Sorry, that's not laid out as well as it could be.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah. And the deed transfer tax is just a note as to what the significant portion of that variance is.
Okay, that's fine.
What do we charge for deed transfers? It's
1.5.
1.5%, yeah.
And that's a lot of money for that small 1.5, that's a lot of properties. I mean, expensive properties, I assume.
Volume and price, I don't have the details of
No,
the
but
sales, but the number that we receive is still at historic high levels, yeah.
well, that's good. That's,
Wow.
Yeah, it shows there's still activity going on. People still want to buy houses in Chester.
Turn them in Airbnb.
I don't have the data on that. It's all right.
Yeah.
anybody else, any other questions?
No.
Thank you.
That's great, thank you.
8.1 flag grade, water program verbal.
Do you want a quick verbal update? So Bruce couldn't be here today, but he sent me an update last night on the water distribution program. So I thought I would share that with you. We were not scheduled to have an update until October 6th, but because of where we are with that, we thought we should update council. So as of the end of the day, September 14th, there was 195 recorded low or dry wells. Just for reference, at the end of 2020, we had 276 altogether. So we're 4 weeks into the program and we've got 195 already. The mapping distribution shows reports across the municipality. The top 5 communities being Chester, Chester Basin, Western Shore, East Chester, Martins Point. So Chester's 23%, Martins Point's down around 8%. So they range in there. A total of 7,050 coupons have been issued covering up to weeks 3 and 4. 7,050. So there's been little change in the precipitation forecast updated on September 14th. So we're still calling for drier than normal conditions. And there's been very limited recovery of the water table since the end of August. So right now we're also experiencing a shortage of the 4-liter bottles of the President's Choice. So they've had to substitute 500 ml bottles. And so they've doubled that up, but that's a higher cost to us. So that's at the independent. I don't know if that's still happening. It was happening to the end of week 3. So I would assume that that's still happening.
Is Foodland in this program, they can do the vouchers there as well, do you know, or?
I think they are, yeah.
I was gonna
Yeah,
say.
because they've got the big So they're working with the independent stores to find other lower cost substitutions, but the inventory of the 4 liter inventory of the 4 liters, but the supply is still seems to be low. If the 4 liter format cannot be sourced and the independent can't supply a reasonable lower cost format, then we'll probably need to reconsider dropping the brand from the program and moving them all to the big
Whatever that's right, you can
distributors, just because of the cost of that.
Well, I think that should be the case anyway. It's water,
Yeah,
there's nothing
all
wrong with the
approved.
big 8.
it just means that then you wouldn't be able to go to any of the independent stores, the 2
get
independent
it,
stores to
it's
get
not
it.
like
You
a
would have
carry.
to, you would eliminate those 2 stores, I believe, from the program. So you'd only be able to go to the ones that carry the big 8.
Foodland in Chester, the store in New Ross, I think is,
Yeah, so that's the difficulty
And I-
the
is,
Hubbard's is.
And I think Glidus handles Big 8 there.
Yeah, I don't think, yeah.
I'm not sure if they're,
Yeah, it's good
but
carriage.
Bruce could give us more information.
Yeah.
If we want more information, I can ask him to. But I know that they're still working with them, so if they can fix it, if they can address that shortage, they will. So still early in the program, and we don't quite have the numbers yet on the actual percentage of redemption of those coupons. But if we look at the figures from 2020, 67% of the redemption was at Foodland, that's the big 8. 22% was at Spidles, and then 9% from Chester Basin Petrocan, so that's the other one that's doing it. So Bruce used a redemption rate of 100% of the coupons, and then he broke it down by sort of following that redemption at each of those stores. And so it looks like we're approximately $23,000 if we get 100% redemption of the coupons. But if you use the same number of coupons redeemed in 2020 at the end of the 10-week program, then we're potentially roughly, we think, around $52,000. So the scheduled review was October 6th. Bruce is going to update again next week. So since there's no council, I'll probably send that to you by email, just so that you have a sense of what the first couple of weeks of redemption looks like on that, and that an update on whether or not they've resolved the issue with the independent supply.
Okay, any questions? People?
Have there been any more uptake on our case bylaw to build new wells?
No, we just
For
got
this
that
year,
report.
should be just a report.
So you mean the water lending program?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if there's been any uptake on water lending or.
Zero.
I can check, I don't have.
No, it was in the report.
Well, that was up to the end of June, so it wouldn't
Okay.
capture.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So what's interesting, because obviously when you have a well that goes dry,
That's when you're gonna look at it.
yeah, but it's gonna happen every year. Or every year it's dry, it's gonna continue to happen. It won't magically stop happening. So if you don't address it, then you're gonna be handcuffed to some sort of program forever.
Not necessarily. Well,
Please explain.
okay, well, I brought this forward last year, or a couple of years ago. I mean, we all have fire departments in our area that have potable water. Okay? We can work, I know Western Shore alone, they have unlimited amounts of potable water there. And if we can work with our fire departments in some way, and there's fire department in every area. This is, and I don't know how everybody else feels, but I think that's a solution.
I thought they quit doing it because they couldn't guarantee the
There's
quality. of water.
liability issues, and then they become, I think there's issues with them becoming public water supply and having a different.
Really?
standard.
I know some of them quit doing it.
And
Okay,
I don't know how pumping a truckload of water into a dry
Well,
hole
it doesn't
actually helps
work.
anybody,
it
but
doesn't.
It only helps for a week.
maybe.
I think the community well idea.
Well, we have money available to people, they have to take advantage of it.
What's our budget for the water?
So this year, we didn't budget for the water lending, so this is all going to be unbudgeted expenditure right now, so.
So that's what 50, it could be 52,000.
Yeah. See, last year we didn't even have.
No.
No, we didn't even have.
We had rain last year.
Yeah.
I have no water.
Yeah.
No water.
So are you going to do a drill well?
I'm going to build a well. because I recognize that
You're
this is a
gonna build a
problem.
well.
This is a problem that won't go away for me. I just haven't gotten around to it.
Okay, any other questions? Because we still got a bunch of stuff to do before this day's over.
No.
Okay. Flag raising protocol. Who's doing that?
Sorry, I think Jen's going to do that if she's on. I'm not sure she's
Don't
on.
hear nothing, drummer.
I can do that. I just have to.
Yeah,
go
just
to the- So this is a request, we had come to council with a request to do some amendments to.
There she
There she
is.
is.
I didn't know I was supposed to.
Sorry.
This is something that was already before council, and you just asked that the EDI committee come up with a pre-approved list of flags that we add to the policy, so that's it.
Okay, what are they?
They're added.
They're in there.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, that's right.
I can read
There's 5, yeah, there's,
Highlighted in yellow.
Okay, so all we have to do is amend it to add those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody got a problem with that?
No.
Somebody want to move it?
So moved.
second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, motion carried. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jen.
Load shoes, leave.
Did you say there's no council meeting next week?
It's the 29th.
Next week is 29.
Next meeting is the 29th.
Okay. I'm glad I picked up on
Yeah,
that.
I didn't realize that either there. to tell you the truth.
This is a month where there's 5
5
Thursdays,
Saturdays.
so we
Yeah.
have a conference.
Look at your
calendar.
You're supposed to look at your, calendar.
Yeah.
Now I'll stop to your house next weekend.
Yeah, well, you can stop.
Quarter after you had a call.
Mr. Ward, there's nothing in my calendar.
That means
That's
there's no
because there's
meeting.
That worked.
Well, we're on to the next item, which is, the motion to adjourn.
Don't move.